On a dark December night, we set out on a journey towards the distant village where my grandfather lived for the New Year's holiday with my family. A thick layer of snow covered the road, and the lights of the car sparkled among the snowflakes. The journey, filled with excitement and happiness, gradually immersed in silence as the lights of the city faded away. As we moved along the snowy single lane, my eyes constantly followed the road, eagerly anticipating the reunion with my grandfather. My younger sibling had fallen asleep, and my mother was sharing the day's events with my father. The air became colder, and snowflakes left traces on the windows. The car's wipers were working rapidly, but the snow showed no signs of stopping. The roads became increasingly slippery, requiring more careful driving. Everyone fell into silence, with only the sound of the car engine and the rustle of snowflakes audible. Suddenly, a large black bear appeared in front of us. The bear, shaped like a massive shadow in the dark night among the snowflakes, was advancing toward us. My father, panicking, slammed on the brakes, losing control of the car, and we veered off the road. The front wheels skidded, making it impossible to regain control on the icy surface. As the car skidded, my heart pounded as if it would leap out of my chest. Inside, there was chaos, and my hands tightly held my mother and sibling to protect them. With fear-filled eyes, I scanned the surroundings. When the car went off the road, the only thought in my mind was, I hope nothing happens. I hope the car doesn't flip. As the car went off the road, it began to skid frighteningly. My eyes were drawn to the trees in front of me. They seemed to move as if alive. A shiver ran down my spine. The car finally came to a stop by colliding with the trees. A moment of silence ensued inside. Then we were startled by my mother's voice. Everyone looked at each other in fear. The tranquility inside the car had been broken, and we found ourselves in the midst of a deep silence. The exit of the bear and the sliding of the car had frightened us considerably. While the snow continued to fall outside, the trees began to sway restlessly. The wind blew so fiercely that the cold air seeping in through the window intensified the shivering. Suddenly, the car started making howling sounds. I frantically looked around, and with horror, I noticed that a herd of bears was approaching us from the forest. Dozens of giant bears with eyes and fur all in unison were moving towards us, creating a disturbing sight. My father attempted to open the door in a hurry, but the car was completely stuck in the mud. The bears, attempting to attack the car, were trying to get in. We all watched in horror, and at that moment, a mysterious sound from the back of the car approaching us became audible. When we first heard it, we didn't understand what it was, but the bears suddenly scattered and disappeared. The mysterious sound was getting farther away from us, and the chilling effect of the sound increased due to the disturbance, causing all of us, except my sibling, who seemed to cry in accompaniment with the sound, to cover our ears intermittently. Although some words in that mysterious sound were penetrating our ears, it was impossible to memorize them, yet I kept repeating those words in my mind. It felt as if I needed to memorize those words. As the mysterious sound moved away and the bears fled, we were a bit relieved, and our current problem was only the cold weather and being stranded here. My father tried to go outside and shout for help as loudly as possible. My sister woke up, and with my father shouting, she seemed to cry in accompaniment. My mother took my sister into her arms, trying her best to calm her down, but my mother's eyes and movements were filled with fear and panic, even though she tried not to show it. Minutes were endless, and the windshield wipers sometimes worked and stopped, while the sound that accompanied us into closing our ears resonated in my head. It was horrifying. How could such a sound come from an animal or a creature I couldn't understand, and it occasionally disturbed my composure. While these thoughts were scratching my brain, I turned towards the light hitting the roof of the car. At that moment, I quickly looked around in excitement. The light hitting the roof was moving rapidly and approaching us, reflecting more among the trees. I tried to get out of the car, but the rear doors wouldn't open. My mother, with my sister who had noticed the light approaching from the car's rear, looked at the light with me. Holding my sister on the back seat, my mother got out of the car and realized that the approaching vehicle was a tow truck. My father had advanced a little further on the road and was waving to the approaching tow truck. The tow truck, connecting the car's door with ropes, held tightly, but pulling the stuck car from the mud would not be easy. As the tow truck began to move, the car slowly began to free itself from the clutches of the mud. The silence of the bears, the echoes of the mysterious sound, and the eerie atmosphere of the dark forest seemed to be left behind. However, there were still memories of fear vivid in my eyes. As the tow truck safely pulled the car to the village, a feeling of relief spread within us. As we approached my grandfather's house, the fearful memories gave way to a joyful atmosphere. My grandfather was waiting for us at the door, and when he learned about the adventure we had experienced, a look of astonishment mixed with joy appeared on his face. My grandfather offered us a warm drink, and we gathered around him. We began to tell the events, but we realized that the mysterious sound and the behavior of the bears were still inexplicable. My grandfather listened to our thoughts and fell into deep thought. That night, my grandfather began to tell us the ancient legends of the village and the mysteries of nature. The stories told of mysterious beings living in the forest and their interactions with humans. My grandfather mentioned that such events were gradually forgotten by the villagers, but nature could always surprise us with mysteries. The next morning, as our car was being examined by the village mechanic, my father and grandfather set out to explore the isolated places on the edge of the forest. In these explorations, they made efforts to understand the source of the mysterious sound. However, nature always kept its secrets. A few days later, after surviving the accident and returning to my grandfather's peaceful life in the village, the memories of the mysterious sound and the behavior of the bears remained as a question mark in our minds. Perhaps there were many mysteries in nature that we could not understand, and maybe this experience once again reminded us of how important it was for humans to live in harmony with nature. After a few days, I couldn't help but think about the events of that dark December night and dream about them repeatedly. Every night, the same nightmare visited me. However, each time, my dream gained more details. In my dream, I was walking in a snow-covered forest. I seemed to have lost my way, but I was progressing faintly. Suddenly, a mysterious light appeared in front of me, drawing me towards it. As I approached the light, I began to see the silhouette of my grandmother amid the shadows. My grandmother was quietly approaching me. The smile on her face and her calm gaze gave me a sense of guidance. When she came to me, she told me that the mysterious sound played a role in the events of that night. However, there was something waiting for me to understand, and I needed to experience my dream more to grasp it fully. While walking together in the forest, my grandmother explained that the apparent bears were manifestations of ancient village spirits trying to help humans. She mentioned that the mysterious sound represented the energies of the spirits trying to assist their village and loved ones. With the energy of those spirits, I felt that I existed in a world where they were trying to help humans. In every moment of my dream, my grandmother was taking me to my own life and hers. Besides her mother, I felt a powerful presence trying to protect me. However, it was not just a supernatural entity. It was also an energy filled with love and protection. According to my grandmother's account, the mysterious sound and the visible bears were a kind of manifestation of the ancient village spirits trying to help humans. That night, by assisting us in the accident with our car, they had shown their energies along with the mysterious sound. At the end of my dream, my grandmother smiled silently and sent me back to the real world. When I woke up, I felt a sense of peace and security within me. I had now understood the mystery behind those dark events,